The name of this legendary underground city sounds deceptively simple: Derinkuyu. Yet two Turkish words conceal an entire philosophy of place. Derin means deep. Kuyu means well. Together, deep well. A well is no accidental metaphor. When you look down into the shaft of the underground city, what opens before you is precisely that: a dark, seemingly bottomless drop, around which thousands of people once lived out their lives. The 8 known floors descend dozens of meters into the earth, and how many more remain unexplored is still unknown. And so 2 words became a monument, a concise and precise portrait of a city that hid from the world in the depths of the earth for thousands of years. 1962. An ordinary day in the small Turkish town of Derinkuyu. A local resident is doing renovations on his home. Nothing unusual, routine work. He tears down an old wall and suddenly finds a strange room behind it. Dark, stretching somewhere deep into the earth. Behind an ordinary wall of an ordinary house lay an entire underground world. Tunnels, halls, staircases descending dozens of meters below the surface. A city where thousands of people once lived had been silently waiting its turn beneath the feet of modern residents. Literally beneath their homes. Word of the discovery reached archaeologists quickly. Official excavations began as early as 1963, and by 1965, Derinkuyu was opened to tourists. Scientists were astonished. The scale of the underground complex defied all expectations. Cappadocia is not simply picturesque rock formations and hot air balloons at dawn. Beneath its surface hides an entire underground world. Around 200 subterranean cities, whose tunnels stretch in every direction like the roots of a giant tree. And among all of them, Derinkuyu stands apart. It is the largest. The complex covers an area of roughly 4 by 4 kilometers. 8 explored floors descend to a depth of approximately 55 to 85 meters. Estimates vary because the city has still not been fully studied. It is believed that the real number of levels reaches 20, but most of them remain buried underground, waiting for their explorers. Imagine a small modern town. Several tens of thousands of residents, markets, workshops, schools, food storage, livestock stalls. Now imagine that all of this exists not under open skies, but deep underground. That is precisely what Derinkuyu was at the height of its existence. Historians offer varying figures. Some speak of 20,000 residents, others of 50,000, or even more. The discrepancy has a simple explanation. The greater part of the city remains unexplored to this day. But even the most conservative estimate is staggering. 20,000 people, underground, in darkness, in narrow tunnels and small rooms. Yet people were not merely hiding, they were living full lives. Livestock were kept beneath the earth, along with stores of food and water calculated to last through a prolonged siege. Children were born here, religious services were held, schools and workshops were in operation. 3,000 years. Try for a moment to truly grasp that number. When the builders of Derinkuyu first struck their pickaxes against the Cappadocian tuff, Rome did not yet exist. Greece was only entering its golden age. The birth of Christ was still more than 1,000 years away. What is known for certain is that the city was not built in a single generation. It is the work of many centuries and many civilizations. The Hittites laid the foundation. The Phrygians expanded it. Early Christians brought it to perfection, transforming the underground complex into a reliable refuge from Roman persecution and Arab raids. Each era added its own flaw, its own tunnel, its own story. Derinkuyu is not a monument to a single civilization. It is a layered composition of millennia, where every layer preserves the traces of people who were searching for the same thing: safety, warmth, and the chance to keep on living. When you think of an underground shelter, the imagination conjures dark, damp corridors where people huddle in fear, waiting for a siege to end. Derinkuyu shatters that image completely. What was created beneath the surface of Cappadocia is not a shelter. It is a city. A real one, fully functional, thought through down to the smallest detail. Across the 8 explored floors, archaeologists discovered everything necessary for normal human life. Living quarters and sleeping rooms, kitchens with hearths and dining areas, stalls and stables for livestock, bakeries where dough was kneaded and bread was baked, presses for extracting olive oil and grape juice, wine cellars, granaries stocked with food supplies. When you think of an underground shelter, the imagination conjures dark, damp corridors where people huddle in fear, waiting for a siege to end. Derinkuyu shatters that image completely. What was created beneath the surface of Cappadocia is not a shelter, it is a city. A real one, fully functional, thought through down to the smallest detail. Across the 8 explored floors, archaeologists discovered everything necessary for normal human life. Living quarters and sleeping rooms, kitchens with hearths and dining areas, stalls and stables for livestock, bakeries where dough was kneaded and bread was baked, presses for extracting olive oil and grape juice, wine cellars, granaries stocked with food supplies. The second floor of Derinkuyu. A narrow corridor, a low ceiling, stone walls without a single window. And here, a school. Not merely a meeting room, but a fully functioning educational institution with separate classrooms, where teachers passed knowledge onto the next generation. Underground, in darkness, under conditions of constant threat from above. The school was religious in nature. Here, students studied Christian scripture, theology, and the foundations of faith. For early Christians hiding from persecution, this was not simply education, it was an act of identity. As long as children are learning, the community lives on. As long as faith is being passed down, it does not die out. Imagine, you are standing on the 8th floor of Derinkuyu, at the deepest point of the explored city. Behind you, a labyrinth of tunnels, halls, and staircases. And ahead, a narrow passage stretching horizontally into the darkness. This is not a dead end, and not a storage room. It is a road. Nearly 10 kilometers long, it leads to another underground city, Kaimakli. 10 kilometers underground, without GPS, without maps, without electric lighting. Nothing but stone, darkness, and a torch in your hand. This tunnel is one of the most enigmatic engineering structures of the ancient world. It remains unknown how long its construction required and how many people worked on it. Today, it is impassable due to collapsed sections, and archaeologists have not yet fully restored it. But the mere fact of its existence speaks volumes. Everything we know about Derinkuyu, 8 floors, thousands of artifacts, impressive halls and tunnels, amounts to only around 10% of the city's actual size. 90% remains untouched, unexplored, unwalked, silently waiting underground. Researchers suggest that the actual number of floors reaches 20 and possibly more. Somewhere in the unexcavated depths, there may be halls that will eclipse everything already discovered. New schools, churches, workshops, artifacts capable of rewriting our understanding of Cappadocian history, and perhaps answers to questions that scholars have been asking for decades.